Welcome to Smart Career Planning, a podcast that discusses anything and maybe everything that goes into planning a smart career journey. I'm your host, Helen Chow. Our guest today is Amanda Wowk from Amanda Wowk Creative. Her website is amandawowk.com, AMANDAWOWK.com. I interviewed Amanda back in episode 5. I reached out to Amanda at that time because I'm really curious as to what other recruiters look for in a winning candidate. When she told me that she also has a side practice where she creates content and coaches individuals and businesses as to how they best use the content to tell their personal and corporate story, my ears perked up. And for those of you who've been following my podcast, I'm a strong believer in creating opportunities for yourself and going after your passion. So I thought, Amanda would be a perfect candidate and a perfect example for me to speak with again and talk about this particular subject. Here we have Amanda. Hey, Amanda.
Hi, Helen. Great chatting with you again.
Yeah. So I know that what I just said was a very general introduction as to what you actually do. Now, can you share with the audience about your experience and your consultancy?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So this weekend actually marks 9 years that I've been with Franklin Templeton, which is a global investment management company. In those 9 years, I've worked in a variety of different human resources roles. And then around this time last year, I felt this nagging pull to start my own business in order to feed the passion that I wasn't getting to put to use in my day job. And of course, that passion was writing. I started Amanda Wowk Creative last fall, and since then I've worked with clients to help tell their story, whether it be their career story, so through resumes and cover letters, or helping businesses by writing website copy or email marketing content, or contributing to websites' blogs.
Mm-hmm. And how was it like in the beginning when you launched that consultancy?
Yeah. A lot of research and a lot of speaking with people that I trusted and admired, but also, a lot of people that I knew would be brutally honest with me and give me constructive feedback. I wanted to hear if something wasn't working so that I could fix it quickly, or, hearing that this needs tweaking is infinitely more helpful to me than someone who's telling me this looks great because they were scared of hurting my feelings. And as for the actual foundation of AWC, I built everything myself. So my website, my marketing plan, my pricing plan, I created all of those just through research and through asking friends who had also started businesses. And, there were definitely times in the beginning when I wondered if I was making a mistake, but I just embraced the unknown and, building a business that was going to sustain my passion, made it all worth it. The late nights, the uncertainty and the fear, it just made it all worth it to me.
Now, that what you just said resonates with me really well, especially I recently launched this business, Interview Right Consulting, and I actually have to build this particular business while I was on vacation, launching, working on the website from scratch and figuring out marketing technologies and what technologies to use, and I have to invest a little bit of money just to allow myself to make those mistakes. Do you see yourself doing the same thing when it comes to building the marketing work from the ground up? And what sort of process did you go through to figure out the right way to build your business?
I certainly, I was trying to be as cautious as possible when it came to money, in the sense of let's not invest too much money in something that wasn't going to work out. I tried to start small and then, throw more money after the things that seemed to be working. So, for example, of course, I built a Facebook page, and of course that's free at first, but then if you want to increase your reach and your scope, you can boost your posts, and, it's a pretty inexpensive way to reach a greater audience. And I definitely saw, through paying attention to the analytics, that I was getting a pretty good response by boosting those posts. So it's, it was spending the money in a smart way versus just throwing, a lot of money after something that I wasn't sure was going to work at first.
Mm-hmm, good. And I think you mentioned, did you start that business about a year ago or 2 years ago?
It was about a year ago. Hmm.
Good. And how long did it take for you? I mean, I'm sure you're still building tractions and really building your
Hmm.
business, but how long did it take for you to even see some tractions for your side business?
Yeah, and yes, agree. I'm definitely still building to gain traction. But I think, I was very lucky in the beginning. I have a friend who runs a very already successful business with her sister, and they were in the process of launching a second business. And she had, because of a Facebook post, she saw that I had started this business, and she reached out to me. We had a discussion about what she was looking to do, and she absolutely took a chance on me and asked me to write all of the content for their
Oh,
website, their email
wow.
marketing, their social media. Yeah, it was a huge win for my business. Of course, it really energized me from a creative standpoint, but more than that, it was such a huge win for my confidence to think that I admired her. I think she is very successful in what she does. And to see that, she trusted me to tell her story was, yeah, just a really big win for me.
Good. And I think a lot of audience can resonate with the following question. Were you concerned at any point that your employer won't be supportive of what you do?
Yes, being completely honest, gosh, at least for 6 months, I operated under the I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission
Yeah.
idiom. Yeah. I just didn't want to hear no. And of course, I thought about it this way. I knew I was taking a risk, but I was working on AWC outside of the office, of course, and I didn't see a conflict of interest. So, it was really only, yeah, probably about 6 months in. I was There was a writing related position that opened up in our marketing department. And I told my manager that I wanted to apply for it. And, at that time, of course, I had to tell him that I spent the majority of my time outside of work writing. And I really wanted to spend all of my time doing it. And, he was a bit surprised because this is the first he'd heard of it, but he was very supportive. Um, and yeah, I would add that I didn't get that first full-time writing job, but it certainly opened other doors for me.
That is awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
now, have you outside? I mean, that's for me. One thing I really about entrepreneurship is, for me as being a full-time headhunter and a career coach. There's a lot of things in between that I wasn't doing until I became, the moonlighting for my own business. Then I started being exposed to so many different things like marketing. Now, for you, do you feel the same way? What other things have you learned as you build that business, this brand new business for you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, like everything was so new to me. I mean, even going back to, undergrad and graduate school, I studied psychology and then human resources. So I didn't really have a business background, but I just, I thought through talking with other people, like I mentioned, talking with my friends that already own businesses and just, trying to be as social media savvy as I could, just using the skills and the observations that I'd already made. But a lot of it was Google too. I would, if someone asked me to send them a proposal and if I'd never written a proposal before, I would tell them that I could do it. And then I would get off the phone and Google how to write a proposal. I really did. And, I knew that that was what I was going to need to do. There was going to be so much that I didn't know, but I knew that I could figure it out. So it was just, I guess, having the confidence and knowing that the information was out there and there was either someone that I knew in my network that could help me or I would figure it out myself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I actually, when I started my own headhunting business, that was exactly the same thing. Someone reached out to me because he found my information on LinkedIn. He reached out to me and he said, I don't know, I know you know exactly how to recruit the kind of people I'm looking for. Very cryptic, and he was like, "Do you want to recruit for me?" And I said to him, "Oh, this is kind of interesting that you approached me at this time in my life because I've been thinking about starting my own recruitment business. And I said to him, give me 3 days. On the third day, I will send you a contract. Because in that 3 days, I have to do research on how to even have an agency contract and what does that even mean? Do I need to have insurance? Do I need a business name? Like, what is it?
Right.
So I took those 3 days to figure it out. And on the third day, I sent him a contract. It was a really interesting experience. And along the way, too, and I don't know if you can relate to it, along the way, that's when and people ask you different questions about your business. And that's when I was like, hold on a minute, I will get back to you in a day. And in that 24 hours, I have to do massive research on how to answer those questions. Does that
Yeah.
similar thing happen to you?
Yeah, definitely. It didn't, but it was one of those things where I thought to myself, okay, this isn't something I'd thought of before, but I think I can do this, or I've done something similar, so I'm just going to go with it. I think that's a big part of being an entrepreneur is the people asking you to do something, they must see something in you that maybe you hadn't thought of before, or they think it's relevant to your business. And I mean, that's how you're going to grow your business too, right? Is to continue to evolve and accept and explore new ideas.
Good. Now, how about, I'm actually internally debating if I should ask you about the time management question or a question about that feeling you had sitting inside your stomach.
Yeah.
That was the jumping off point. Like I'm still thinking which question should I ask first, but let me just go with the time management. How, you have a full-time job and you have clients coming to you. How do you manage your time?
Yeah, it takes a lot of planning and scheduling and prioritizing. And I think that, I've learned to say no to things. So to maybe invitations or social events or whatever it might be, because if I say yes to that time, then I'm saying no to the time that I would be spending on building my business and working with clients, right? So I think, when you've found your passion, saying no to those other competing priorities, they don't really feel like a sacrifice. And I think there isn't anything else I'd rather be doing than focusing on writing and focusing on writing for clients. So, but that being said, it's also about balance. And I think listening to your gut, right? If your gut is saying that you need a mental break and you need to go to yoga or you need to grab a glass of wine with your friend, then you probably do. And I think, it's equally as important to realize the times when, you do need a break and you can't work, of course, around the clock. Unplugging and recharging are just as important for creativity as well as success. So yeah, I think it does take the planning and scheduling, but also having I don't know if it's the maturity or the self-awareness to take a step back and like, okay, now I need to take a break.
And that's such a good point. I think for me, the way I operate is thinking about consequences. If I have not had a break for a straight 5 weeks, and I realize this weekend I just really need to spend some quality time with my partner, with my friends. Otherwise, that's really going to be damaging to my relationships, and I have to spend the following 3 weeks to like a month to heal the relationship, then I'm like, yeah, maybe I really need to spend this time with people around me. Or maybe if I choose to go to this concert as opposed to working this weekend, then I'll be really stressed for the following 3 weeks. Then maybe I'll just buckle down and get some work done.
Yeah. Yeah, I would treat it as almost like a compass, right? If you
Hmm.
can, you can use that compass, you can use the compass as your business and you can say, okay, these are the things that are going to take me away from my path. But if something else is more important to me, like my business, then I'm going to stay on this path and I'm going to continue to follow the direction that business is taking me. Then you're really able to stay on track with those things. And then the other things fall away you don't feel like it's such a sacrifice, because you are continuing to follow your heart, really.
Good. And now going back to that feeling that you felt without this business, can you tell us a little bit more? What was that feeling like, and how did you? I mean, it's just a feeling, right? You have to figure out and pinpoint like what is that that's missing in my life. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about that process and how did you come to this conclusion? Oh, I just need to start my business.
Yeah, yes, it was something that I had certainly felt multiple times, and maybe for years even. It was an idea that would bubble up when maybe I was bored or uninspired at work or just questioning whether I was heading down the right path. And this idea would bubble up to either start my own blog and to share my ideas and to write, and then to, I'd always really had liked if people had come to me and they, say a friend was applying for law school and they needed my help with editing their essay or anything that was, writing related or telling their story related. I really enjoyed helping people do that, but I never strung together the idea that I could be that person. I could build a business helping people do so. And then, yeah, it was earlier last year where was on vacation. I had traveled to Edinburgh, Scotland, where I have friends, and I was staying with a friend, and he was actively job hunting, and he asked me to take a look at his resume and cover letter. So I did that, and I helped him organize those documents. But then also he's a professional photographer. So after the resume and cover letter, which I guess he had liked the work that I'd done, he's like, would you mind taking a look at my photography website? Because he had written, obviously he had taken all the images, but he'd written the content for it. And, I spent about a day rewriting all the content for his website. So, I came away thinking, gosh, like I can tell people stories in a variety of ways through writing, through creating content. And if, I have one person who's asking me to help with a multitude of things, and maybe this is something I should put out there. And, the point at which I knew I had to put it out there was I had gotten to the point in my career as a recruiter where I knew that I had this career. I'd built this career at that point, 8 years. But I knew my passion was writing, but I just didn't see how those two were ever going to intersect. And so I felt like I had no other choice but to start a business to be able to fuel that passion and to be able to, to feed it and really, find a different kind of happiness there.
Yeah, and that's great that now you're able to transition into a role that you're more passionate about. That's great. Now, you and I are strong believers of creating opportunities for yourself. Now, for our listeners who are still on the fence, what's that one fear factor you had to overcome? Like if you were to put yourself in their shoes, what's that one fear factor you had to overcome before you commit yourself to building your side gig? And what was that jumping off point for you?
I think the biggest roadblock is the fear of wanting to be perfect. And I think when I look back, when I first started everything, you get bogged down in so many of the details. Like before you launch, you want your website to be perfect, and you want to have business cards, and you want to have a logo, and you want to have a tagline, and you want all these little bits and pieces, and you want them to be perfect because you want to put a perfect product or service out into the world. And I just don't think that's true. I think that the very best businesses, they introduce an idea and they test it and they see how an audience or a customer reacts to it. And then you have to, you gather that feedback and then you evolve based on that. And, I didn't put it out in a perfect way. And I've continued to evolve my services based on both client feedback, but also I pay attention to the things that really energize me, to the client work that I get that I think, wow, I really love doing this. I really want to do more of this. And in order for me to do more of this, I might have to sacrifice and say no to other projects that aren't so in line with the things that really energize me. So, your business idea doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a static product or service. You can evolve. And, I think taking that first step is the hardest. It's the one that people fear the most. And it's the one that people will balk at and back down from. But once you do take that first step, it all gets easier. I think as long as you're open to feedback and constructive ideas, you're going to figure the rest out along the way.
Good. Well, thank you so much for giving our audience they're really great insights and suggestions. If our listeners want to get a hold of you or want to understand and learn more about your writing services, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, my website is probably the best place to visit, AmandaWowk, WOWK.com, that lists all of my services. And then, of course, you can reach me via email, and that's Amanda@AmandaWowk.com. And of course, I have a Facebook page as well, Amanda Woke Creative.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, Helen, thank you so much. It was great chatting with you.
Same here. Well, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Before we wrap up, I have one quick announcement. The announcement is about my webinars. I have two webinars coming up. One is in September 6th, which is this Tuesday. For those of you who have been following my podcast for quite some time or from time to time visit interviewrightconsulting.com, you will know I typically have my webinar and career clinic on a Friday, but I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to have a paid webinar that's happening on a Tuesday night, again, September 6th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. The title of that webinar is called How to Use LinkedIn to Prepare for an Interview, for a job interview. If you're interested, visit my website at www.interviewrightconsulting.com/services, and you can find online webinars there. And the other webinar I'm having, it is just a few days after, which is September 9th. It is titled How to Write a Winning Resume and Cover Letter. That one is on a Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. To sign up, again, you can visit my website, interviewrightconsulting.com. Have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.